Now that we are done with our pillow top, and I'll see if I can show you the whole thing, we're going to get ready to quilt it. So I've just have this laid out on the floor. That's where I have the most amount of room. And when you go to quilt, and I'm quilting mine on my luminaire, you need to do some planning. And it's never going to be the same for any of your for most of your quilts or your pillows or whatever it is that you're quilting. Most of the time what you're going to plan is not going to be the same every time, just because every project's going to be different. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to go ahead and and this is laid out on my floor, but in this beige area right here, I'm just going to do stippling. And I'm going to use my 9.5 by 14-inch hoop. I think I can do it in 3 sections. And then down here on the border, the bottom border and the top border, I'm going to use a design from Anita Good's Free Motion Frenzy. And they have this whole section with Halloween designs, and they're so much fun. But there's bats, and there's Boo, and I think there's like spiders and pumpkins and all sorts of really fun stuff. And not only are there, full squares or full rectangles of designs, but there's corner designs and there's sashing designs or border designs, and they come in all different sizes. So let's start out by figuring out what our measurements are, so we know what we can fit. So I like to just kind of draw a little picture, and I have a tape measure. And so here's our pillow. Of course, this is not to scale. And we have the inside area right here that has all the houses. And then you have your border strip. Okay. So I already measured, and from here to here, it is 38.5 inches. And from top to bottom is 16.5 inches. Okay. Got pen on me. And then from here to here, where the design is, from here to here, it's about 8 inches. All right, so those are the measurements I really, really need. So if we're looking at the Boo, that's going to go in here, and it's just Boo. And then it says Boo again, and it's just spelt out. That's a pretty horrible drawing. I'm so sorry. I'm going to do my biggest size. I'm going to have to probably shrink it down. Or actually, maybe we should do the size below it. I think we will go the biggest size and then shrink it down. So it's 2.3 inches by 13.9. So I'm going to be doing this design, and I'm going to do it in the top border area, and I'm going to do it in the bottom area. So 2.3 by 13.7. So the Boo is 2.3 by 13.7. So if we take 38, which is the length of cross, 0.5, and divide it by, I think that's going to be close to 3. 3 goes into that 1 time, 2 times, and it goes into this almost 8. I'm just going to round it to 8. So that's what I have. I have 12.8 inches. So I'm going to have to go down a little bit with this. I'm going to have to decrease it by almost an inch. All right, so just keep that in mind. And I'll probably start with the middle embroidery, and then I'll just use my camera because I have it, so why not use it? All right, now we have to figure out what can go in here. Or actually, I mean, we don't have to figure that out but if you were doing square designs, you would have to figure that out. I'm going to be doing continuous stippling, so we don't have to worry about that. I am going to leave my pad nearby. I am going to be using, and I have a 10.5 by 16, and I have a 9 by 14, and I think this one will be fine because you have about an inch this way and an inch that way, about 2 inches of no-sew left and right. So I think this will be good. We'll have plenty of room. I'll probably start here at the top and just work my way down. So let's go over the machine. I'm going to start with the stippling. Okay, I just forgot to mention. So before we start, I did want to talk about how to layer your pillow top. So this is my pillow top, and then I have a layer of batting, and you want it to be between 2 to 4 inches bigger than the pillow top all the way around. And then behind that, I just have a layer of muslin. So make sure that you have this all layered together. So muslin, batting, I'm using Hobbs 80/20, and then your pillow top, and then we're ready. Okay, so let's talk about hooping. So I think you can all see that. I always tell people when you're quilting in the hoop and you're using a snap hoop, as long as you are hooped in 3 out of the 4 sides, you should be good. And what that means is if I hoop like this and my hoop is hanging off on the right hand side, but I'm hooped on the bottom, the left and the top, you're good. If we're hooped like this and I'm hooped on the left and the right, the bottom, but I'm hanging off the top, you're good. So I think I'm trying to think if I've ever, can you be hooped on just 2 sides? I think you could probably be hooped on 2 sides. So if you had something long and skinny just going across, as long as you're stabilized, you have the backing, you're good to go. So don't stress out about it. When we start, we're going to go ahead and start on, I'm going to start on the other side, but I'm just going to be hooping it like this. My first hooping, this the right side or the left side, whichever side I start with, that's going to be hanging off. So that's totally fine because I have all the support. I still have the batting here and the backing, but I'm not worried that the top isn't in there too. That's going to be totally fine. Now let's talk about no-sew area. You have, once we slide our hoop on, and I'm going to show you with the back of the hoop, or, this hoop. I'll put this on upside down so it won't snap on me. You've got probably about an inch of, half an inch of no-sew on the left-hand side, about a full inch on the right-hand side, and then you have about 2 inches top and bottom. That's going to be no-sew, so just keep that in mind. And when we go to hoop, just be conscious of where your fabric is. So if we're going to be doing this middle strip right here, you don't want to hoop like this, where now you're not going to be able to get up here, but you have all this waste down here in the bottom. So you really do want to try and center. I mean, if I was just trying to do this panel with the tree, I want to center it top and bottom, left and right. I don't want to be too far over here and then miss out on this opportunity right here because I'm all the way over to the right. Okay. So, and then think about what's going to work best. Will it work best to go up and down? Maybe if we were stitching the whole thing, but in this case, we're just doing the little beige strip where all the embroidery is. So we're going to go ahead and center it this way. Now that we have that, let's go on over the machine and we are going to start our quilting. All right, so you want to go to either My Design Center or you're going to go to IQ. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that. I have already slid on my bottom hoop, and that hoop's going to stay on this whole time. I'm not going to be taking it on and off. I'm going to be putting the upper hoop down on top of it. And then when I'm not using the upper hoop, I'm just going to take it and I'm going to rest it up here on top of the machine, just like that. So it's going to come down. I'm going to use it. I'm going to put it up here, and then I'm going to reposition my fabric. So I'm going to start with the leftmost part, and I'm going to go ahead and put it on. I'm going to feel underneath. I can feel the edges of my hoop right here and here. And remember, I have almost 2 inches of no-sew on the top. So let's move it down a little bit. I think that'll get everything. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but the more perfect it is in the beginning, the less you have to fidget with it later on. So then you just grab from the top and the bottom and left to right, or you can take your fabric and pull it inward, but you want that fabric to be nice and taut. And that looks pretty darn good to me. Okay, so after we've done that, I'm going to get my stylus. So this is a stylus that I like. We carry these at the store. I'm going to just go ahead and turn it on so it's blue. And I'm going to come over here and I am going to go, and it depends on what machine you're on. If you are on the Destiny or the Dream machine, you are going to hit the double flower up here in the left-hand corner. If you're on the Luminaire and the Solaris, you're going to hit the fern. And I'm going to hit image scan. That's anytime you're doing fabric, you're hitting image scan. And I'm just going to hit scan. And give your machine tons of room. It's going to go all the way to the back. Make sure it's not going to hit anything. All right, and this is the scan that we have. Now you have the ability to turn up your contrast. So I can hit this button right here on the right, and you're going to see that that's going to increase my contrast. I can go here on the left. That's going to decrease my contrast. What you don't want to do is there are times when I work all the way down here for no contrast. I almost never work all the way here to full contrast because, watch this. Doesn't look like I'm doing anything, does it? But when I decrease my contrast, look at what I did. I did all that drawing right there. Simply hit your undo button. It's going to undo it. Your scan is still there. You just have to increase your contrast. I really like to, let's call these percentages, and this would be 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100%. I really like to work here in the middle. If I'm looking for just a pixel or something like that, I might go all the way here to no contrast, and then I can see any stark contrast, any drawings, any pixels, anything that's been left behind. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to increase my contrast. First thing that I want to do is I want to create a perimeter where we're going to have our stippling. So, and I'm not worried that I'm not totally straight. I'm going to go ahead, let me decrease that a little bit. I have my pen on. Two ways that I can do. I can either go in here and I can grab this square, say okay. So I went in here to my shape selector. I selected the square, put it up here right now. Now I have to size it. I'll decrease that so you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and hit size, and I'm just going to go ahead and make it go almost all the way across from left to right. And I'm going to have to move it a little bit, and I'm going to have to rotate it a little bit. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stretch it. So let me hit this button. You can see that stretching. What you need to be careful of is you don't want that red line to go under the edges of your screen. So I can go ahead and extend this. Look at this. And I can take that. Did you see that red line disappear under the edge? Your machine, when you go to the next screen, it's going to say your pattern extends outside of the area, your embroidery area. So you always have to make sure that you can see all of that. You got to be able to see your whole red line. Okay, that looks pretty good, but I need to rotate it a little bit. So I'm going to say okay. I'm going to go into rotate. And I'm just going to go 1 degree at a time. And that looks pretty darn perfect, don't you think? So I might stretch it up just a little bit more. And the other thing I'm going to do is this. Right now, I'm set for my 10.5 by 16 inch hoop, I can tell. I'm going to go up here to my settings, and I'm going to choose the appropriate size hoop so I'm not outside my embroidery field, 9.5 by 14. And now it's put a red line. Look it down here. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going under the line. This would tell me that I've extended outside of my embroidery field. You don't want that. I'm going to move it up a little bit. I'm going to watch out up here and make sure I don't extend out from there. And I'm going to make this smaller. I'm I'm going to size it, and I'm just going to squeeze it. It's perfect left to right. I'm just going to squeeze it down a little bit. I just want to bump that line up and above the 9.5 by 14 because it would tell me that I can't use this hoop. Okay, that looks good to me. So now what I did is I set my perimeter. This is where I want to do my stippling within this area. Now I have to tell it where I do not want the stippling to be. So I'm going to outline the house. I'm going to outline the pumpkin and the light, and I'm going to outline all of this and the bat because I don't want my stippling to go over that. So I'm going to say okay to this to get out of this. This is my sizing and my move. I could increase my contrast a little bit if that's going to help you see it. I think you're going to see it better if I go on low contrast. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I think it's going to just help me with my outlining. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in, and I'm going to go to 400%. And I can now hit, did you see that? Let me do that again. Okay, that's how it was set. I'm going to zoom in to 400%. I can go all the way to 600%. I don't think I need that right now. 400%. Now I'm not going to be able to see the whole thing, but I can take the hand here and move it. And I'm going to go ahead and move it right here and start with that flower and outline that flower. What tools am I going to use? Right here, you're going to have your line region properties. That's a line. Here, you're going to have your fill region properties. That's a filled in red square. That's a satin stitch. That's a thin satin stitch that would go in a line, and this is a satin fill. So I'm just going to go with the pencil. I'm already set for it. So I can go in here and look, and this is my pencil where I can just free form draw. All right, I'm going to go ahead and draw around the flower, and I don't want to draw too far because the stippling isn't going to go right to the line that I draw. It's going to go a little bit outside of that. So let's go ahead. I have my pencil on, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to undo. Let me start that. Okay, when you draw, you need your lines to cross. I had one little pixel. Sometimes I just need to touch it the right way. You might find that you like doing this with a mouse instead. And I'm just making sure that every line crosses. Okay. And I'm not worried about like the little lines. All right, now I'm going to do the post. Pumpkin. I'm going to get my hand, move it so I can go ahead and draw around the rest of this. See if I can fit the whole. Okay, I'm on my hand. If I try and draw, it's not going to draw. I need to reselect my pencil. See, my pencil is selected now. Sometimes it... And I'm just resting one hand like this and my wrist on it just to give me some support. Okay, I'm going to outline the bat. Get the hand. Let's finish the outline on the pumpkin. Whoops. See how it was moving? I still have the hand selected, so I have to go back to the pencil. Hand. Now I've got to outline the house. Pencil. Hand. Pencil. Hand. Pencil. All right, I'll go back to that. And sometimes when you stitch something like this, you can pull the outline from embroidery, the embroidery part of the machine. But this one had a basting stitch around it, and that's why we're having to trace around the whole thing. Back to the pencil. And I don't know why sometimes this draws so well, and then sometimes it does not. And you do not have to worry about, like I said, this line being perfect. Hand to move. Pencil to draw. There's gonna trace it here. Let's go to 200% hand. Let's get all of this right here. So now we're gonna get all around the chandelier. Pencil to draw. Let's go around the back. And I'm going to zoom back into 400%. And I want to make sure I could see a gap. Whoops. So if you look right here, you might not be able to see it, but there's definitely a line, a pixel missing. So I'm just going to draw a line and just connecting those. Okay. That should be good. So I'm going to go ahead and now that I have that all traced out, I'm going to zoom back out to 100%. Oh, I got to get that back there. So let me 200% pencil. All right. 100%. Okay, we're ready to add the stippling. So I have my perimeter. Then I have lines drawn around everything I don't want to have stippled over. Now, if I have a pixel missing anywhere, it's going to flood over that too, but let's just try it out. So now that we've done our line outline, we're going to go into our fill. If you're on a Destiny or Dream Machine, to get to your line properties, you do have to hit the notebook paper right here to get in there. If you're on the Luminaire or the Solaris, I can just hit this box right here. I'm going to hit stippling. I'm going to make it, let's just do purple. You have to hit your bucket and then touch where you want the stippling to go. So here's my bucket. And look at that. I did a good job. Nothing. Oh, I do have a little bit of a flood right down here. Do you see that? So over the tree, it stippled completely over the tree, which means there must be a break somewhere in the line. So I'm going to undo my stippling. I'm going to zoom into 800%. I'm going to go all the way down here to where the tree is. Okay. And I'm going to look around this entire line and I'm going to see where the missing pixel is. Now, corner to corner counts, but I must have a pixel missing somewhere. Oh, do you see this right here? It doesn't connect. So I'm going to go back to my pencil. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my pencil here. And I'm just going to go there. Now let's see if it floods. I'm going to go back here, hit my bucket. There. See how it didn't cover that? So that was all I needed to do. I'm going to go back to 100%. And we are good to go. I'm going to go ahead and stitch it. All right, I'm going to be stitching with Deco Bob. This is Deco Bob, and it is, what color is this? Not even sure what color it is. It's DB112. It's called Gorgeous Color. So normally if I am quilting, I will be bringing up my bobbin thread at stitch 1. I'm going to show you how I do that. This is, I don't even know what's in my bobbin right now. I think I just have Fill-Tech in my bobbin, and I'm not worried about it because this is going on the back of the muslin and it's inside the pillow. So I'm not too concerned about it. I would be concerned if it was the back of my quilt. So I'm going to go ahead and thread. Oh, and I forgot to do this. So now that we've done that, and I like what I see, I'm going to hit next. Keep in mind, if I hit next, I can still come back to the screen, but I can't make changes. I can add to what I've done. I can't take away from what I've done. I can't hit undo. Right now I can hit undo as many times as I want. When I hit next, I go into the other screen. If I come back, it's kind of like I'm at step 1 again. There's no going back. All right. Oh, you know what? Should we put a little bit of stippling right there too? So I have my bucket there. So I added some right there. It may or may not be enough space to do some stippling. Okay. This is not what your stippling looks like. This is just a representation. We're going to hit next. If you're on a Luminaire and a Solaris, it is going to auto preview for you. So just give it a second. And that's what my stippling is going to look like. For me, that's way too small. So I can go ahead and do some things right here. Number 1, I want to link my stippling. You saw I added some right in here. That's the machine sees that as a totally different design because it's enclosed someplace else. Everything that's touching, that's one design. And then I have this second design right in there. So I'm going to go in here. I could leave that because that's all I can fit in there, or else I can chain link. And if I chain link, all my stippling, this whole stippling design and that stippling design will be linked. So when I go to change the size, it's going to change the size of all of it and not just this as design 1 and this as design 2. That's really small when I look at my quilt. It's really, really small. So I'm going to unlink that. I want to make sure that I'm going to have a little bit of stippling there. I can look up here and it's telling me what my fill is. My fill in purple is stippling. I can hit the line and it just put a red box around here. That's my stippling too. And then it's showing me my satin stitch outline. It's showing me that as a different design. So all of these are all different. So I'm going to leave, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and leave the little one, but I'm going to change this big one right here. This is the distance between your stitches. I've never changed that. This is the spacing between your stippling. This is what I normally change. I'm going to go ahead and hit that. I'm going to go up to 0.4. And then I'm going to say okay. And then I'm going to be able to preview. That looks good to me. I don't want it too small. I like 0.4. I'm going to go ahead and leave that. This is going to be distance away from the edges. I'm going to go to 0.016 and say okay. And I think I'm good with that. I'm going to go ahead and stitch. All right. If I hit set, it's saying that it's converting it to an embroidery pattern. I'm going to exit my design center. And is it okay to go to the embroidery edit screen? I like what I see, so I'm going to say okay. And when I go to stitch, I'm just stitching the purple stippling. I'm not going to stitch that bold black outline. So I'm good with that. I'm going to say embroidery. And I am going to use this button right here. This is where you can go forward and backward stitches. I'm going to go to stitch 1. So I'm going to hit +1. I want you to see what happens because right now it's centered to my design. When I hit stitch 1, it is going to my very first stitch. If I was quilting, and I'm going to do it here just so you can see it. When you're quilting, you're going to want to go to stitch 1. You're going to want to hold your upper thread in your left hand, go needle down, needle up, bring up your bobbin thread. And he's tiny because I've used the cutter, so it's always going to be small. I'm going to grab a pair of tweezers, and I'm going to grab it. You guys see it now? You don't want to start with your thread above your foot because it just starts tangling up and it doesn't look good. You want to get that upper thread underneath the foot. Hold both threads in one hand, hit start. And I usually do about 10 stitches, and then I'll trim my thread. It's going to go to another area, so I'm just going to hit stop. That way, that gives me an opportunity to bring my thread up again. So now it's going to start here. So again, I'm going to go needle down, needle up. I don't know if you can see that. Needle down, needle up, bring your needle in the highest position. I'm going to bring my foot up, and there's my thread. I can see it. So this is my bobbin thread. I'm going to grab my bobbin thread. My upper thread is, I'm going to thread it down through the hole of my foot. Okay, so now I'm holding my upper and lower thread. I'm going to hit start. And this, I'm just going to let it go to the back. It's not in the way, but if it was in the way, then I would go ahead and I would trim that. Isn't this exciting? If you're near the edge, watch it, because you don't want your foot to go under and kind of scoop underneath that edge. And I don't want it to go up into my black trim. So sometimes I'll move my fabric. I might just pull it up a little bit so it doesn't get stitched. Remember, you're the boss. I love doing the stippling because I feel like it looks pretty seamless when you put it all together. You can't really match it up where the end starts exactly where the beginning is. I mean, you could kind of draw it in, but you can line them up next to each other so it looks pretty seamless. Sorry, those were my tweezers. Okay, I'm going to hit stop because I know, whoops, those are my scissors. I know it's going to start again over here just to do a couple more stitches. So let me go ahead. I'm going to grab my upper thread. And like I said, it doesn't make a difference right now because I'm going to put my foot up because I'm not quilting, meaning there's not a quilt back. It's not going through to the quilt back. It's just going to go to the muslin on the inside of the pillow. But I just want you to know, looking for my tweezers. I have another pair. I just want you to know what's going to happen if you're doing your actual quilt. You want to bring the bobbin thread up every time so you don't get that bird's nest on the backside. You want your backside to look just as good as your front. This is the inside of the pillow though, the muslin. It's going on the back side of the muslin, so we don't need to worry about it. Okay, so the first section's done. I'm going to rehoop. We're going to rescan. This we're done with. It's not like I'm going to use that again. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go My Design Center. Let's go ahead and take the top hoop off. Leave my bottom one on. I'm just going to reposition my fabric. And I am going to put, so I said that you're going to need some painter's tape. If you can see your stitches, like let's say I was doing this and I was doing this with black and you could really see that distinct stitching, stippling stitching, then you wouldn't need this. But I like to use some painter's tape to define where my stitches last ended. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this. I have a natural barrier right here. I've got the base of the tree, but on this top part, I'm going to go ahead and take my tape and put it right to where those last stitches were. Okay, do you see that? So there's my stitches. I'm going to go right there. And now when I scan, I'll be able to see that. It'll just make it easier on the eye. Now, our stitching right here, you want this to go about 2 inches below the hoop. So let's say this is the top of it because you're not going to be able to see it. You want it like this, where there's about 2 inches, 2.5 inches. That way you have room to match this up. You don't want this too high because you're going to be wasting all this space that you could embroider on. And you don't want it too low because then you're going to have a gap. So just give yourself about 2 inches. I'm just going to go ahead and slide this up. I think that looks pretty good. I think I could go up a little bit more. Oops. And you got to look at the left and the right too. All right. I'm going to go ahead and grab my fabric, top and bottom, and just pull outward. And this is going to be pretty quick. Then I'm going to grab my fabric and always feel underneath here and just make sure your top hoop is right on top of your bottom hoop. If I've had people where they didn't have those lined up and then their needle went into the bottom hoop, which was scooted underneath. Does that make sense? So just feel for those and make sure your top hoop is right on top of your bottom hoop. I feel like I need to tug this more. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with our scan. It looks hooped. It's hooped beautifully. I'm going to come over here. If you're on that Destiny and Dream machine, I think the Meridian too, the Meridian Altair and Stellaire, you're going to hit the double flowers up in the upper left-hand corner. Luminaire and Solaris, hit the fern and hit image scan. And just hit scan. Okay, so we're back to our scan. You can see the tape right there. I can increase my contrast a little bit. I'm going to leave it down here, and that way you can see the lines when I draw them in. I'm going to go ahead, and first thing I'm going to do is set my perimeter. So another way that you can set your perimeter is you can draw it in. So I showed you how to do it going to the shape selector and selecting the square, and then we sized it, right? The other thing you can do is I can go to the pencil, which is already selected, and I can change that to the lightning bolt. And what this is, it allows me to draw a shape with straight sides that's enclosed, that closes, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and let's do red because I think we'll be able to see that. So for instance, I can go here, draw a line over here, and you can see it. I'll do it this way. And then when I go up close to this, it will connect to my start. Or I could do this. Draw a triangle. Or I could just go. It's always going to want to connect though. So, and let me go ahead. So those are, you know, it's going to be, I call it the lightning bolt. I don't know if it has a different name. I'm undoing right now. So you can set a perimeter just by picking one point, going to the next, lifting up, down. So we're going to do it this way, this time. Okay, so I'm going to undo those. My scanned image is there. I've just taken my contrast all the way to no contrast. So let's go ahead and go here. And I'm just going to go from, let's see, I can go from here. There's my tape right there. So we'll just go here. Remember, you don't want that red line to be, that worries me a little bit. We'll see what happens. Maybe it'll be fine. I don't know how that happened. Let's undo. Go out. Okay, that's fine. It's not really the look I was totally going for. Now we have to go ahead and get our pencil, and we're going to draw around all these shapes. A lot of people like to use a mouse and a mouse pad to do this. I think they find that they have more control. You know, and this pen's working great. It is the best in the world, but I'm going to go into 800% this time. Let's go. And you can see where you are here with your design. So now I know that I'm all the way at the top of the page. Let's go start at the bottom of the tree here. Okay. So we're going to go in from here. I'm going to go to 400% because that's going to take forever. All right. I'm going to go to my pencil. I'm going to get my regular pencil for drawing. And let's draw around my tree. Go around my flower. There we go. Hand to move. Pencil to draw. Make sure those lines cross. Pencil. Okay, and I made sure that that red line and that red line crossed so that my stippling wouldn't flood over. Let's get our hand. Make sure there's no bats up there. Let's go ahead and do the house now. Back to the pencil. hand to move, pencil to draw. Hand to move, pencil to draw. Hand to move, pencil to draw. Okay. And remember, we're not stitching out those lines, so if they're not perfect, I don't worry about it. Okay, so looks like the fence goes like that. And don't be afraid to look at your fabric to go, is that what I'm seeing? Because I wasn't sure what that was, and that fence is white, so... Hand to move, pencil to draw. You know what I'm going to do? Because this part is so little here. Let me go into 100%. I am going to just draw a line over to make sure that, undo, that nothing gets stippled in here. And I'll make sure that the stippling happens in our next embroidery. So, or, you know, we'll just fill it in and it won't go in there. I'll just make sure nothing's in this spot here. So let me go ahead and draw right around the back. We go up to 400% again. Hand to move. Let's go around the back. Get that eraser and get that little, whoops, too much. Undo, eraser. You can always use your eraser. I have one little pixel there that I want to get. Got it. Okay, and then I'm going to go back down here. And I am going to close that off. Now, I want to erase this because if it extends under that area, then it's going to tell me I'm out of my embroidery area. Okay, let's go back to 100%. And I'll show you one more way that we can do this because I could have just erased it too. We'll see if that's easier and you like that better. Okay, so here we go. Moment of truth. I'm going to go to my fill properties. So I can go this way or this way. I'll go here through the paper. I'm going to get my stippling and I am going to don't do it in red because I just did my lines in red. If I do it in red and I bring it into an embroidery and my stippling and my outline are in red, it will not stop between the two. So you have to have different colors. So I'm going to go with the green. I like to stick to a darker color, bucket, fill. And that looks good. Didn't go over anything. And I'm just going to confirm. So I like what I see. Remember, this is not what it's going to look like. I'm going to hit next. I can't go back. I mean, I can come back to this page, but I can only build on what's here. I can't take anything away. So make sure you like what you see. I'm going to hit next. And I did my last stippling at 0.40. So I'm going to do the same for this. So easy to blow right by it. I'm going to say okay to preview. If you're doing this on the Destiny or the Dream Machine, you are going to have your buttons right down here. Same buttons. Run pitch will be right here. Spacing will be right here. and distance away will be right here. So you're going to have to go to that option, change it, and then hit set. So this, I'm going to go ahead and I think that looks good to me. I'll add a little bit of distance. I said 0.16. 0.016 is what I did before. I think that looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and say okay. And if I like what I see, which I think it looks great, I'm just going to say set. Set. This final set is going to take me out of Design Center, out of IQ, and it's going to take me into embroidery. I'm ready to go. Remember, I like to go here. I'm going to go to stitch number 1. These are just good habits to build, even though we're not really worried about the way the back looks because I'm pulling at my bobbin thread. It doesn't matter, and my upper thread is down below the foot because it's going to be the inside of the pillow, so you're not going to see it on the back. That wasn't that bad, was it? And we have one more hooping, and then we'll go ahead and we'll do the boo. So if you look here, you're going to see that it shows 2 colors. There's the stippling, which we're on right now, and then there's the satin stitch outline. Right now we're 1 minute into 24 minutes, but that number really doesn't represent what we're doing because we're only doing the stippling. If you look here at our bar, our progress bar, that's our stippling right here, and this is the satin stitch outline that we're not even doing. And it ended right where it started. Whoop. I'm like a master dropper of things. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take off my tape. That looks so good. And we are going to rehoop. One more hooping and we are done. Sorry, I got a new clamp with this embroidery arm and it doesn't look very secure. Okay, so I'm going to take that off. I'm going to slide this down. And I'll put a little piece of painter's tape just on this one spot. Okay. Get this way up. Okay. Grab my hoop, bring it down. All right. Okay. You know, take your time. Make it look good. Okay, I'm good. I am going to go over here. This is going to be our final hooping for the stippling. I'm going to go home. My design center. Fern. Image scan. If you're on the Destiny or the Dream Machine, you're going to hit the double flower in the upper left-hand corner. I mean, how quick was this? I mean, it's pretty quick. If I wasn't talking, this would probably take me, I'd say maybe like 40 minutes, maybe 20 minutes for each hooping. This one we're going to do a little differently. We're going to go ahead and fill the whole thing with stippling, and then we're going to erase, and I'll see if you like that better. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off. I'm going to go here and get, let's see, what should we get? Should we get let's get a pencil. Should we get the pencil? Let's get a square. So let's get a square. We're going to stretch it out. Size. Going to take it to the edges. Move it over. Stretch it up. Let's stretch it more, and then we'll move it down. I think that's good. Stretch it a little bit more. We'll make it a little skinnier. Move it a little bit to the left. I'm going to rotate it too. 1 degree. 1 degree was too much. So I love 0.1. I'm going to size it, squeeze it in a little bit. So you have a lot of tools that you can use to get this pretty perfect. Okay. And all right, that looks good to me. Okay, we're going to do something differently this time. We have our perimeter. I'm going to go in here, get my stippling. I'll leave it, let's do purple again. Hit my bucket. I'm going to fill the whole thing. And now I'm going to come in with my eraser. So let's go up to 400%. And I'm going to erase whatever I don't want to be stippled over. And you might like this technique better. So let's get my eraser. Whoops, that wasn't an eraser. Here's my eraser right here. You have different sizes. So I'm just going to leave it where it is right now. And maybe we'll increase my contrast a little bit. I'm going to have to put that line back in there though. Okay. Whoops, I want the eraser. Okay, eraser. Hand to move, eraser to erase. And I don't want it going in here in between. So I'll just get rid of all of this. You can't leave any pixels because it'll want to stitch them out. Do you like that better? So maybe you like this better. Eraser to erase. Same concept, you're just telling it where you don't want it to stipple. Problem is, now I have to go in and add a line. I'm going to have to add lines in. Okay, this is really tiny, so I'm going to take the size of my eraser way down. Let's go ahead and bring this up to maybe a 10. And, whoops, eraser. Okay, let's go to size 10. Let's do the lamp post. And let's see. I think we got it. All right. Oh, I didn't get this bat here. Let's go 400%. And this bat right here. Okay. I'm going to take my contrast. Let's take my contrast all the way down. Because this is when you see if you forgot anything. We'll like really zoom in. Looks good. Oh, see like that little piece here? Okay. So that's what we have. And oh, we don't even have to add those lines back in because we weren't filling within. We were filling the whole thing and erasing some. Oh, look at that big chunk right there. We can leave that. I think that was around in between some branches. All right. I think I like what I see. I'm going to just hit next. Let's increase my contrast a little bit. I do need to go back and get those because it's creating stippling out of those. So let's go ahead and zoom in to 400%. I'm going to get my eraser and I'm going to get rid of this right here. And I'm going to get rid of this. I think it was creating designs out of this. Okay, let's try it now. Okay, next. Looks good. I'm going to increase my size. So I'm leaving my stitch length. I'm going all the way up to 0.4. I'm going to add a little bit of distance. That knock knock says hold on. I'm trying to work here. You need to be more patient. Say okay to that. So maybe you like that better. Maybe instead of drawing around something, you like to erase. And I like this, so I'm going to say set. I'm going to take it into embroidery and say embroidery. Go to stitch number 1. I'm going to bring up my bobbin thread. Here we go. Sometimes I'll just grab with my finger and I'll get a hold of both of them. Let's start. It does some locking stitches there, so I'm not worried about just cutting it. I can tell by looking at my pattern here, there's a cut and it's going to go someplace else. So I hit stop, so when it gets there, I have a chance to bring up my bobbin thread. Hold that, go needle down, needle up, foot up, grab that, and then I need to get this below my foot. Always make sure that upper thread is threaded down through the hole in the foot. And under the foot, hold to start. And if it's out of the way, I'll just pull it out of the way. After we do this, we're going to do the boo. It's getting close up there. I always tell myself I'm the boss and I can manipulate my fabric. So every once in a while you might have to grab the fabric and actually pull it out of the way. It's okay to do that. But how exciting is this that you can do your own quilting? All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our handiwork. Cut some of those threads. It looks pretty darn amazing. And I just fall in love with my machine a little bit more every time I do something like this because I couldn't really do this before. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the boo on the top. Just trying to feel this embroidery feels. And it's just the bulk of the embroidery, but let's go ahead and put the boo in. Okay, now the boo is an embroidery design, and we're not going into IQ. We're just going to go home, and we're going to go into embroidery, and look how cute that is. So I created that just with the JPEG, and I will show you how to do that later on, but I'm going to go into my USB. And where is Free Motion Frenzy? Is it? All right, let's try this again. I should have Free Motion. Let me try this. Let's do this. And well, look at that. I don't see it. Let's try it again. Okay, so let me return. Let me go back in. And this is it. And I am just doing, I want this one. Double A, embroidery data does not include enough thread. Machine will display a max approximate thread. I'm not worried about it. That's what I want. I'm going to go ahead and say set. And I don't think that's what I want because you can always confirm by looking at the size. And this says 9.04. And the one I want is, I think it was 13.7. So let me try that again. 13.7. Boo. You know, I think it was size A that I needed, but that's okay. Let's put this one in and let's size it. So I'm going to have to hoop my fabric and keep this in mind when I'm doing this because it's going to be long. So I'm going to go here to edit, size. And if you recall from before, let me grab my pad. I had 12.8 inches if I wanted to do 3 designs. So I'm going to go ahead and size this up. Let's just do it equidistantly. And it is telling me that's as big as I can go. Well, now I can hit this one. That was my 20%. I can hit this. And now let's grow it, because now I can double it. I could go up to double the size if I wanted. So let's just do that. 12.6. Let's do 12.5. So 12.48, that looks good to me. And we are going to go ahead and hoop. And I want to find the center. So a couple of things I'm going to do. Number one, this is going to be black. And I'm going to do it here on the bottom. And sometimes black, when you stitch it with white in the bobbin, might pull a little bit of it up. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this out, and I'm going to put a black bobbin in, and that's just going to assure me that it is going to look perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. So I'm going to put a black bobbin in. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put black thread in the upper. And my 9.5 by 14 snap hoop's still going to be the best size to use. I do want to find the middle of my design. So let's come over here. And let's go ahead and find the center. And I'm going to mark it. Let me get a marking tool. How about a friction pen? Or I have this with white chalk on it. I love this. This is one of my favorite marking tools. So let's use this. I'm just going to grab my fabric and make sure, look at that amazing quilting. I'm going to just grab the corner of it. Just make sure that I'm finding the center. I'm just going to pull to the center. And I'll just finger press it. And that's right about here. Okay. So we know the middle of that square is going to be the center of my bottom border, which means this right here, the middle of this, I'm just going to eyeball it. That's going to be the center, or else you could get a ruler and you can measure it, but that looks about center to me. So now we know where we're going to go with it. I'm going to come back over to the machine. I'm looking at how the design is loaded on my screen. And I think I'm going to flip it. So my fabric is going to lay over there. So instead of having my design look like this, let's go ahead and rotate it. There we go. All right. Remember, as long as you're hooped on 3 sides, we're good to go. So I'm not worried if I'm not all the way over here. Just going to go ahead. We kind of want it to be centered. Don't pinch yourself. Remember how you want these to be right on top of themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull. And it looks great. I don't think I'm totally straight. So let's go ahead and we are going to place the design. I'm going to take a picture because you have the camera option. So let's go ahead and go over here and hit your camera. Scan. All right, now we can go here and take our design and just move it where we want it to be. Let's go ahead and close that. Too bad we can't adjust for contrast, huh? But I'm going to rotate it. Oops, too much. We got to go. There we go. There we go. That looks good. And I'm centering it to 3 of those. So it looks like there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Let me just make sure. 3, 3, and 3. Okay. So there's 3 of them. So I want it to fill in those 3 blocks. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, let's go to size. And I'm going to stretch it a little bit. Then I'm going to move it up so it fits into 3 blocks. And I'm going to rotate it back just 0.1 degree. That looks good. Okay. I'm happy with that. Let's go embroidery. Let's go to stitch number 1. And it looks like, oh, keep this in mind. So look at here, it's showing me an outline stitch. We don't need that. I don't need that either. I don't need that. That's going to be like a placement, like you're batting, you're tapping down. The only thing I want is the actual boo itself. And it is at the beginning of that. Now we're good. So I'm going to say, okay. And let's go ahead and bring your bobbin thread up. I'm going to hold both of these. Let's hold them over here. How much fun is that? Now the only thing I'm thinking is my binding's going to go right here. So next time with my next one, I'm going to bump it up a little bit from the edge. So I have about 1/2 inch. I love the distance from the top. Pretty cute. Okay, let's rehoop and do the next one. So design I think is okay. I'm going to resize that down just a little bit, and I'm going to probably squeeze it just a little bit. So let's go ahead and take we're going to rehoop, and we'll take a picture, and we'll do the next grouping. So we'll do these first 3. But that looks so cute. Okay, so I'm over here, just going to... Okay, now that we've rehooped, I'm going to go ahead and go back in here, and let's, the design's still there. I'm going to go ahead and take a picture. Scan. And I'm probably going to change the size of that design because it was a little bit big. So I think I had it at 12.48. I'm going to squeeze the height of it a little bit, because you've got to remember your binding's going to go on, so you don't want it to encase that stitching. Or at least I don't want it to. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. Let's take our design and move it down a little bit. I'm going to go to layout. And you know what I need to do is hit return. Okay. I'm going to rotate it first. Sometimes I just do 0.1 degrees. I find 0.1 is more like 1%. I feel like I have a lot more room here than I had with the last design. I think we might be good just with that. We move it up a tiny bit. And just because I'm just going to squeeze it, I think that should be plenty of room. Okay, looks good to me. I'm going to say okay. I'm going to go embroidery. Actually, you know what? I feel like I should squeeze it this way a little bit because the binding's going to be there too. So size, let's go 1, 2, move it up. Let me squeeze it one more time this way. Okay, let's do that. Embroidery. Let's go. And remember, we're skipping these steps. That's placement for the fabric and the batting. The only thing we're doing is the actual boo stitching itself. All right, I'm going to go ahead and grab this, bring up my bobbin thread. I really like the sizing of this one. So I have it at 12.46 and a height of 3.17. Okay, let's do the last grouping of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and rehoop. Alrighty. What do you think? That looks good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let's go back to, I'm going to hit return to go back to my previous screen. I'm going to use my camera, scan. And if you're on a Dream Machine or if you're on the Dream Machine or the Destiny, then you can just use your, you have a camera button that you're going to use. I think it's in the upper right-hand corner. That's so fun. Okay. Just want to make sure all of that is down. So I've got that. Now I'm going to go ahead and close this and move my design down a little bit. Size. I like to go size because not only can you size, but you also have your move keys right here. I'm going to rotate a little. I feel like I should make it a little bit bigger. Size. And I think that should be good. All right, I'm good with that. I'm going to go ahead and hit embroidery. Let's go to stitch number 1. I'm going to bring up our bobbin thread. Hold these threads out of the way. Let's start. Oh, shoot. Okay, remember I said skip the box. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. And I can pull those stitches out later. Let's go to step 4. Let's go to stitch 1. grab my thread, needle down, needle up. Hold your upper and lower thread and get started. And after we finish the quilting on this, then I'm going to do the embellishments. All right, let's do the top. So I'm going to swing it around. Keep in mind, I'm going to have to swing my design around. I'm going to start with the middle. So there's 9 blocks, so we're going to go to the center 3. I'm just going to hoop it like this. Okay. All right, let's go back. I'm going to go to my previous page. My design. Don't forget, I'm going to rotate that because I flipped my fabric around. And let's scan. Remember the 3 sides. So I have left, top, and bottom. Right side's not hooped at all. It's totally fine. Sometimes you even get a better hoop without forcing it into that 4th side. Okay, here we go. I'm going to close that, rotate. And I really thought out of all of those, my second one was the best. So I'm going to go ahead and size it, and I'm going to make it 1 click skinnier and 1 click less long. Actually, this is a middle one. So maybe I should stretch it. One more. Yeah, I'm going to go back down. Okay. And this one seemed to go all the way to the edge, so I'm going to, one more time, move it up. I think that looks, one more, move it to the left. There we go. I think that looks good. Okay. Good with that embroidery. Remember, skip the first 3 steps. So I'm going to go here. Hopefully I won't forget again. But watch it start stitching. And you should recognize when it's doing something it's not supposed to be doing, which is why I stopped it before. All right, here we go. All right, since it's close to me, I'm just going to do this bottom part right here. Slide up my hoop. Let's see, get that in there. Wonder if that's enough for me to grab. Don't get pinched. Alrighty. I'm going to go here, hit return to the previous page, camera, scan. Alrighty. Come back over here. Close that. Let's rotate. All right, I think it's a little close. So I'm going to go ahead and size it. I'm going to squeeze it in this way. Squeeze it once, move it up once. And I think that looks pretty good. All right, let's go ahead. Embroidery. Don't forget to skip the first 3 steps. Let's go to stitch 1. Bring up your bobbin thread. And, you know, it doesn't make a difference. I'm just going to start it. But I did want to see you, and that's just a good habit to get into when you're quilting on your embroidery machine, to just bring up that bobbin thread. All right, let's go ahead and take a peek and see how we did. Oh, shoot. I forgot I have one more section to do. Let's go on back over. All right. Good thing it's so easy to hoop. And this is the difference you get. So if you do not bring up your bobbin thread, that's what you get on the back side. But you're going to see every other spot I brought up my bobbin thread. This is going to be the inside of the pillow, so I'm not really worried about it. But if people are going to see it, I would take the time to bring that up. All right, let me go ahead. Put this one in. Can't believe I almost forgot to do the very last hooping. hoping it'll catch the very top, but I'm engaging in some risky behavior. I'm pretty close up there, but I'm going to go for it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my main edit page. I'm going to scan. Whoops. Off. That was from before. And you can see how close I am on the top. Hopefully it's going to make it in there. Let's see how you did. Pretty good. I'm just going to go for it, because I don't want it to stitch right up there in that top part anyways. So let's go ahead and close that. Rotate. All right, looks good to me. Embroidery. But not really stitch number 1, because we want to bypass all those 3 steps. And now we're ready to start. Whoops, I almost unthreaded that. Okay, now we're done for real. So let me go ahead and take top part off. Come on over here. And we're going to square it up. So I am just going to trim everything down so it looks gorgeous. So I go 13, 13. So I am going to take this to the other side, and you're not going to be able to see, but I'm going to go ahead and square this up just because I need to use my big cutting mat. All right, so I have gone ahead and squared everything up. So I've trimmed all of the excess batting off on the top and on the bottom. You can see all the stitching, and it just looks so adorable. So it says Boo on the bottom border and the top border, and then we have stippling everywhere else. I'm going to go ahead and we are going to stitch out the embellishments. And then I'm going to be doing a separate video that shows you how to put it all together. You did get backing fabric that came with your kit. If you got the kit, if you didn't get the kit, I love to piece my my backing, whether it is my quilt or whether it is one of these pillows. And you can see this was all of the scrap pieces that I had left over. And I just took it and sewed it all together into one long piece. And now I am going to go ahead. I'll show you when I get this done what I'm going to do with it. But I'm going to follow the directions. Normally, she has you cut the back piece into, I think it's like 17 by, is it 17 by 14 or something like that? And then the other side is 27, or I can't remember the exact measurements, but you've got basically a third and then 2/3. For this pillow, she has you cut 10 inches in from the left and 10 inches in from the right, or I mean, I guess it doesn't make a difference. You could go 10 and 10, and then you sew it on in thirds. And I think the reason for that is so it's easier to put those fairy lights, take those fairy lights and put them I guess to put them in later. I'm guessing. I don't know yet because I haven't done it. But this is my backing. So I'm going to put that to the side. And let's get on to the embellishments.